one point. We was considered the murder capital of the world, called per capita. So that was the mid '90s, late '90s, man. So it was rough out there, man. As a young black male, you have to really think and strategize like.
Okay, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And I'm Dr. B. I'm your host today. And as always, we have some incredible guests. We have people that are doing things, and sometimes we hear on the media, we see in, the stories that we hear, the narrative that we hear, as that people, are not getting it done. They're always stuck in the past, or they're worried about what's going to happen. And so, what this show does is it highlights folks that say, it doesn't matter our circumstances, it doesn't matter where we grew up, it doesn't matter the things we have. We're going to make this work regardless. And so, just so excited to have CJ on today. CJ, when I started the Journey to Freedom podcast, it came out of I went up to Minnesota and I went through this trust leadership, program that I thought was really good. But there's 500 people in the room, and they're learning all this stuff about trust, and realize there's only about 30 folks of color, less men, right, that are in the room. And I'm going, this is some really good information. I get to have it, but why is my culture, my folks, not getting to experience? Because when I think of the trust in the room, who trusts the least, right? And then I start thinking about, our folks, like we don't trust ourselves a lot of times. We don't trust each other a lot of times. We don't trust whether we call it the white man or the man or whatever you want to call it. We don't trust that. And we have this almost this belief where we're taught not to trust. We're taught to be very cautious. We're taught to, somebody's always coming after you. And you need to make sure that you have all your ducks and everything in a row. And so I came back and I was praying, and, I said, I really want to help folks of color. And I heard God just speak to me saying, no, I need you to work with black men. And so Journey to Freedom came out of that. And so last year, in 2024, I said, I'm going to interview 100 black men that are doing stuff. And so I started this journey of finding people to interview. And it wasn't necessarily trying to interview people that were famous or people that, that we see on the billboard all the time, that we know all the stats about their life about, it was the everyday guy who's in the community, whether they're working with kids or working with each other or just making a difference, that are huge. And what I found across the country is just some incredible souls. So I got 105 done last year. We're in January still, getting ready in January 2025, and already got 15 this year going. I'm just going to keep going. And I found you. And so just excited to have a conversation with you today, to find out your story, find out what you got going. I mean, we already got to talk about basketball and the Lakers and why we do some of the things we do, right? You talked about your dad and that relationship, and a lot of our theme and the thing we've been talking about is, what does it mean to be a dad? And what does it mean to be, a son and a husband, and, the relationship part of it, and just some really good things. So I'd love for you to just kind of start with your story. Who are you? Sometimes we do these and we just type, well, what's your bio? And they tell us what they do, but they don't ever tell us who they are. And so I'm excited to just kind of hear your story, absorb it, and then we'll just see where we go from there. So thank you again for being on, spending your time, taking your time to be on the show today.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having me on. And I like what you're doing, man, as far as you say the journey to freedom, man, how you started off, and the reason why you started it kind of put me in the mind of why I started my podcast as well. When I first started the CJ Moneyway show, my aim was to go for black men as well. That was my whole target. I wanted to start a podcast. I called myself doing some stuff like in 2013. So it was birthing in me, I didn't actually start it to October 6, 2022.
Okay.
And like you, I did like 94 episodes last year, and this year, man, the my books is just off the chain right now. I need a personal assistant to be honest with you. Like for real. You know how it is, man. Grinding, doing this every day. Gotta set things up, set up the stream yard and all that, man. People don't know the behind the scene things that you have to do. You know what I'm saying, to keep this thing moving and to put out a 100 episodes. I know exactly what it is, man, and how it is because I've been there. But that's something that I wanted to do as well. But when I got on Pod Match, it kind of changed the trajectory of the way that my podcast was going. I didn't have a flow. I didn't have that's what I wanted to do as far as aim for men, but you know how they say in the podcast world to have a niche. I didn't have a niche
Mm-hmm.
for certain things or whatnot. But now I just interview people, and like you said, man, and it resonated with me because that's the same thing that I do. I wanted to build a platform for the everyday man and woman. People
Yeah.
that had a story to tell, that wouldn't be invited to the Oprah Winfrey shows or the Kevin Hart shows or the Shaq shows and things of that nature. And I felt as though we had stories to tell as well, just as interesting as they do. They telling theirs on another scale. But like you said, somebody that's going through the same struggles that I'm going through, somebody that may be going through some challenges that I'm going through that we just can't throw money at it, can we talk? So that's something that I tried to build my podcast on as well because at the end of the day, my tagline for the CJ Moneyway show is success behind the stories, stories behind the success. Because somebody may see Dr. B where he is now, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what it took for you to get to where you are now. They don't know the trials and tribulations and the tears and the hard work that it took to get that doctor behind your in front of your name and things of that nature, man. So that's how I basically, what I'm saying, tried to build my platform and started the CJ Moneyway show.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So tell me a little bit about your background, like where you grew up, and where you from a little bit. Just I mean,
Man,
know you're in Indiana now. Did you start out there? Have you always been there? Or you moved around a little bit? What's that like?
born and raised Gary, Indiana, man. 1973. Uh, I was raised in a two parent household. Went to my mother when I was younger took me to church. The Bible say train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get older, they won't depart from it. When I got to an age where I was able to make my own decision on if I wanted to go to church or not, I decided not to. And so that was my thing. I just like a lot of people didn't think that it was important, didn't think that it was valuable to my life. And so I just lived life, man, from 16 to I want to say to my early 30s, just living like I had everything figured out, only to come to find out I really didn't have nothing figured out. I was lost. I was lost in the sauce, as they say, you know.
I
And
love it.
um and Doc, man, it took me to go to Detroit. When I moved to Detroit in 2000, in the year 2000, me and my cousin moved to Detroit. I started at the casino down there, and it changed the trajectory of my life. I found out that I had a talent in writing. I hated school. I didn't like school. So when I got to Detroit, things slow down at times when you get away from certain people. You say it take you like he did Abraham. He took him away from his kinfolk and told him to go to a land that he didn't even know that he was going to. And so, but sometimes, man, we just got to get in a place where God will take you to a place where the only voice that matters is his. You know what I'm saying? Because we can go through so many things and mundane activities every day, just over and over and over and over again, repeating the same things. Whether we in the hood and we sitting out there and we kicking it with the fellas, drinking beer, drinking Hennessy or smoking weed, we doing the same thing repetitively every day. And so, when do you have time to really sit back and hear the voice of God when He's speaking to you, when He's trying to lead your steps or lead you in a different direction? I don't, because I'm too consumed in doing what I want to do and what my direction is taking me. And so that's what kind of changed my life because I had to realize that my direction wasn't taking me nowhere. It was taking me
Hmm.
to a dead end road, man. And so going to Detroit and going and getting back in church. That's why I used a scripture earlier. Train up a child in the way that
Hmm.
they should go, and when they get older, they won't depart from it. And I felt that he was drawing me into him, man. And from that moment on, I ain't looked back.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Talk to me a little bit about Gary, because Gary is one of those unique cities in our country that, folks, well, Michael Jackson came from there, but I mean, that's just one aspect of Gary, Indiana, because
Yeah.
I think it almost has its own economy or had its own economy that was predominantly folks of color.
Mm-hmm.
That, you saw black teachers, you saw black bankers, you saw black people who own dealerships and that kind of stuff in the city. And then you lived in Detroit for a while, which is a little bit different of a city than Gary, Indiana. What
Mm-hmm.
kind of things can you say that helped you become the man that you are today as a result of maybe growing up in Gary, or the types of things that you saw we were able to do?
Well, one thing about growing up in Gary, especially back in them days, man, it used to be community orientated and very
Mhm.
family orientated.
Yeah.
Where family would come together on holidays, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, things of that nature. And it was just a family atmosphere. And then the community where everybody, like you said, we went to school together, we played ball together, and we it was like it was a brotherhood. So
Mhm.
not like my cousins, they may be not just my cousins, but they was my brothers. And so then
Mhm.
when you have friends that come on from the outside, we were so close and so hung out together so much. They not long no longer just a friend. That's my brother. When you say, hey, that's like my little brother, or that's my brother, and that's just how it was, man. And coming up in Gary, as people may not know, but some people may know, at one point we was considered the murder capital of the world, called per capita.
Mhm.
And so that was the mid '90s, late '90s, man. So it was rough out there, man. And so, as a young black male, you had to you had to really think and strategize. And like I said, I wasn't the most, I was out there doing my thing, and I thank God, and this is the reason why I say I thank God, because I was doing so much out there in the streets, and I wasn't a drug dealer or anything like that. I knew that it was certain things that I didn't want to do. One thing I did want to do, I
Mhm.
didn't want to go to jail. That was never an option for me. And
Yeah.
then another thing was I never wanted to go to the military. So those two things in my life that I never wanted to do. That was just me. And so
Mhm.
therefore, if you don't want to do something, if I didn't want to go to jail, then I didn't want to do anything that was going to lead me or give me the chance to go to jail. So I didn't want to go to jail. So I didn't
Yeah.
sell drugs. So I worked a 9 to 5. I seen players in the hood, they doing their thing or whatever. Hey, kudos to you. But I'm fit to go to this casino and start flipping some of these cars, or I'm fit to go work at this
Mhm.
candy factory or whatever. And I never been, just growing up in the hood, man. Again, another thing too, you had to be mentally and physically tough growing up in Gary, man, because
Okay.
you go through different sets. We playing ball, playing basketball, football, whatever. Some places you went, when you got done, whether win, lose, or draw, you better be ready. You know what I'm saying? Not
Mhm.
just to walk away to go home. You better be ready to put them knuckles up, man. And that's just how it was, man. And so therefore, I think it shaped me into the man that I am today. Not that I want to bully anybody or anything, but I just don't. A lot of things I just don't take no mess on either.
Oh, I love it. Decided you and your cousin were going to move to Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I recently just wrote a book called The Decision Formula, and one of the parts in the decision formula is talking about making decisions that are reversible or irreversible. And we realize is most of the decisions we make are reversible. Like you cut your, irreversible will be you're going to get your leg amputated. It's not going to grow back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But reversible will be like we're going to move and try to have a better life in another city. If it doesn't work out, then we just come back home. And I think so
Yeah.
many people think, into this decision, like, if I move there, then, life, I'll never be able to come back, and I'll be stuck in the middle of nowhere, right? And Detroit's not that far away from where you're at in
Nah,
Indiana.
4 hours.
4 hours. So what was kind of the thought process of why you guys were going? Did you already have jobs that were going to allow you to be successful, or thought you would, or what was the lure of that? And then what brought you back to Indiana late years later?
It's funny you asked me that. I was just telling some guys at work about this the other day. We was talking about it, and when I went, we went to Detroit for a family reunion on my father's
Okay.
side, and we stayed at this hotel called the Ramada Inn. And in this hotel, they had a nightclub called Yesterdays, and the nightclub was jumping. And I'm like, man, I'm moving to Detroit. As I told you, I was living a life. I was doing all the wrong, for all the wrong reasons. I'm like, I'm moving to Detroit. And so I was working at the casino at Trump Casino back. No, I wasn't. I was working at Harris East Chicago back then.
Okay.
And Detroit was opening up casinos, and anytime you start opening up new casinos and things of that nature, people that have experience get a chance to come in, move up a level. So if I was a dealer, I got a chance to be a supervisor now, then pit boss and so forth and so forth. And so that was so. After that, I'm like, man, I'm going to Detroit, and so I talked to somebody that was running parts of the operation in Detroit, and I called them up and wanted me to come down there, take a test, things of that nature. And then it just so happened that my cousin, one of my cousins, older cousins that I grew up with, his job shut down in the mill. They was a contractor in the mill, but they were stationed in Detroit. Well, it was stationed in Detroit and one in Atlanta. And it just happened that way that we both decided to leave and move together at the same time. But to tell you, Doc, man, to be honest with you, sometimes you thinking that you doing things on your own mission. Like I'm thinking I'm going to Detroit because yesterday because they got the club and everything and whatnot. But like I said earlier, that wasn't my call. God called me to Detroit for a reason because there was some things that I had to get instilled inside of me, and I had to sit down long enough to see clear what He had for me. And as far as coming back, because I got two kids in Detroit, and so as far as coming back, I was like Friday. I was like Ice Cube on Friday. I got fired on my vacation. I was on vacation, but I had a couple of dreams prior to that, and he was telling me to go home, and I'm like, I'm not going back there. I didn't want to go back home. I had no intentions on coming back home, and so wind up getting fired. Still tried to stay, and I wind up having to come back home anyway. Then as time revealed itself, because my wife now that we've been married for 15 years, but we had been knowing each other for like 27, 28 years before we got married. And I look back at it now, Doc, and say I had to leave Detroit because my wife was in Indiana. We
Mhm.
thinking one thing
Yeah.
on this and that, but God got a whole nother plan, man. And marrying this woman has been the best thing in my life, man. To be honest with
Oh my gosh. Well, talk to me a little bit because you're in Detroit, you get there, you made the decision to move, and then you have this experience with your faith. Ah, right? Like God says, wait a minute, I
you. Hmm.
brought you here because I'm going to do something special with you. A lot of what
Yeah.
I like to do say, I want to help people become the person they need to be in order to do what God put them on this planet to do. And so God pulls you out. Kind of walk me through that faith journey that you've had over the years, and that, hey, I know this is what you have me doing, God. I'm not sure, and for most of us, I'm
Hmm.
not sure I know how to do it. I'm not sure I'm going to be good at it, but I'm gonna follow you. I'm going to be faithful in what you're asking me to do. Kind of talk to me about that revelation and how that worked in your life.
Like I say, man, I was in Detroit. I was still doing my thing. I was still
Mhm.
wild, and Detroit had more women than Gary did. I'm gonna be honest with you. But so I was still out there, as they say on the movie, was it Coming to America, sowing his
Mhm.
royal oats.
Yeah.
That's what and sowing plenty of them. But then I ran into this one girl that I work with, and she was going. She invited me to a church, and Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church, Pastor Tony Hill. And man, it just changed. It just changed some things in me from the first day, the first moment I walked in there. You know, and then when I walked in there, man, and at the church, he was praying over people. So you know, this is my first time coming there, whatever. You know, people in the line, and he said, and so I'm like, well, he ain't got nothing to say to me. He really don't know me like that. And so he got to me, and he said, son, he said, whoa, he said, son, if a man can take care of one pair of shoes, just imagine what he can do with 100 pair of shoes. Now, I didn't catch it. And he say, I want you to start writing and reading the first 5 chapters of the Bible. And I was astonished because I had been writing this book, both eyes open and both eyes shut. I started in 2000 in the year 2000, and I had been writing this book, and I had notebooks full of scriptures because I was putting them into the book. And
Yeah.
it was just so, you know what I'm saying? It was just so amazing, so powerful to me. I'm like, wow, this God speaking. And so from that moment on, man, I started reading the word for myself, you know, going to church and reading the word for myself, man, because the Bible say that a man can't eat by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. And so when we start talking about spiritual warfare, things that I was going through, being uncovered, not knowing, you know, that I was getting hit with these fiery darts, man. But when I started learning certain things, man, how to withstand the enemy and, you know what I'm saying, things of that nature, man, it just changed the view of the direction of my life, man, that I started going. And I'm at the point now, I can't turn back.
Nor would you want to, right? I mean,
No, nor would I want to. Life been good.
you want to. I love
Life
that.
been good.
Yeah, one of the things that has been a theme in our show has been this thing called fatherhood. And I know you talk about you having kids, and we've talked about all the different things that go into African American Black men and fatherhood in our belief system. And one of the things that I'd love to talk about is I think that I haven't had one person say that a child shouldn't have a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody 100% believes in how important it is, but I don't know if we all understand wholeheartedly what it means to be a dad and
Mm-hmm.
how it changes who we are and the way that we look at life when we're responsible for somebody, and being able to be there and nurture it and cherish, and some of us didn't get the opportunity. You know, we had women or partners that would say, well, I don't want him seeing, I don't want his influence on my kids, I don't want him around, that kind of stuff. And the fights that some of these men have had to have just in order to see their kids and be around their kids. Kind of talk to me about, because I know you're a dad, and you talked about I had kids that are in Detroit. What does it mean to you to be a dad and that responsibility that goes with it?
uh First, Doc, let me go back to what you were saying, you know, in the
Okay.
beginning before I get to that, because sometimes in life you have to learn how to value certain things. And
Mm-hmm.
so like I said before, I was living this life, man. I was wild. I was having 2 3 girlfriends at a time. That's just the life that I was living. That was me. And you know, you asked the question earlier, well, it was on one of the questions that you had sent me, and it was talking about, you know, like, why do black men get stuck? And part of, you know what I'm saying, my answer to that is accountability. And so in life, I wasn't taking accountability for my actions and for myself. And so I was doing things, I was living a life, and I was having kids. And although I was trying to be a loving father, I wasn't in the home to be present. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
that's important. I'll get to that in a second. Why important? That because I've seen it from both sides of the fence, and the things that you was talking about as far as having different baby mamas, having to go through different situations, wanting to be a father, trying to be a father, but there's different facets, and that's what a lot of times even kids when they grow up and things is not, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, between me and their mother is not what they expect it to be, or they don't know why the situation is what it is. And so you form an opinion about that parent on, you know what I'm saying, why that parent ain't there, or why wasn't they in the household with you. and but they don't know you wasn't even born. You don't even know what happened between me and your mama. You know what I'm saying? Like things happen, and I've had to take accountability with my oldest son, who is 28 years old now, and I've told him everything. Because about me, him, his mother, and the things that I was doing, because I didn't want him not knowing. You know what I'm saying? Or saying, well, Daddy, you didn't raise me from the inside. Why you wasn't with my mama? I was out there acting a fool, son. I was out there trying to live my life. I got a thing. I speak about it later. Doc, I got another podcast. I talk about it later, and I did an episode called "Playground to Purpose," and what I mean by playground to purpose is that CJ was on the playground. I was on the merry-go-round, and the kids were sitting around spinning me on the merry-go-round because I was trying to find my way in life. You know what I'm saying? Like how you have a lot of parents now where I think it was on Baby Boy would say, "Mama gotta have a life too, Jody." You know what I'm saying? So it's like we trying to find things in our life that we trying to do. So we want to go out to the club. We still want to hang out and drink. We want to go to the casino. We want to do these things. And a lot of times we leaving the kids at home basically fending and raising themselves. And so those are some of the things that I had to come into saying to grips with that a lot of I'm trying to blame the baby mama for this, or I'm trying to blame her for that, while she blaming me for this and that. But then I had to sit back, because the Bible tells us this too, Doc, and it's been one of my big things. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I
Mhm.
reasoned as a child. But when I became a man, I put childish things behind. And so therefore we still have a lot of men. We grown in age, but we still operate in a childish mentality, in a
Yeah.
childish way, the things that we're doing. And so I got married. My son 14 years old now, and I just see the difference, and I know the difference from raising the kid from the outside and raising the kid from the inside. I'm that man. I know it ain't something that I can tell that I gotta tell you about somebody else's experience. I know what it is to raise a kid from the outside and inside, and it's totally different, man. It's totally different, and I love it. I love my kids, but you do have disputes at times because a kid see you on the inside with your with the woman that you married and the child that you with on the inside, and it becomes a jealousy thing, thinking that you love this kid more than me. But that's not the case. It's just situations are different. You know what I'm saying? And that's in life. Some situations may be similar, but every dynamic is different because every household is different, and so it can't be the same. It's just similar in appearance.
Yeah, I mean it is, and like you said, until you mature and are able to be that person who can be that great dad, or can be that dad who's present and all that, and uh, you can't compare that, right? You can't compare. It's hard for the kids, right? And this
Mm-hmm.
goes back. This isn't new, right? I mean, Cain and Abel were having issues, and
Yeah, yeah.
the
No.
Bible's full of issues.
Yeah.
You think of David and Saul, and I mean all those things, all those relationships were all as crazy as the relationships we have now.
Yeah.
But I think what's neat is you still maintain relationships with all your kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to the degree that you could. I mean, if they're upset with you, um, you can't control that. All
Right.
you can control is the part you can do. And it sounds like by having those conversations and telling them, hey, I wasn't the man I should have been,
Mm-hmm.
that goes towards healing. And at least he knows exactly where you stand, and what you believe now. I mean, do you get to talk to your 28? You say he's 28 now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get to talk to him often, or enough to still have a relationship, or
Yeah,
how is
yeah.
it?
I talked to him enough to still have a relationship. I got a little grandbaby, with him. I mean, he got a little grandbaby. I mean, a baby. So I got a grandbaby now. So yeah, we talk. He got a girlfriend now. So things change, but I'm still a father. You know what I'm saying? And I still love you. And at the end of the day, uh, as I was telling some guys at work the other day, at the end of the day, as fathers, we have to lead by examples, And so with him having a little boy and him having a son, uh, I had to do things with him so that he can carry it on and do things with his son. I had to tell him certain things in life so that if it was beneficial to him, that he'll pass it on to his. And so that's what we have to do, man. Especially as men, we have to lead. We may not lead like a woman or be as nurturing as a woman, or they come to us for everything, but we have to stand on our 10 toes. And the first thing, in order to stand on your 10 toes and be the leader and to be the man of your household, you have to literally start taking accountability for your own actions. Ain't no woman gonna follow a man that has no direction in life. Period. You can sit there and beat on your chest all you want to, talking about I'm the man, but you're not qualified to her as a man because you're not doing things in a manly fashion. A woman will follow somebody that's gonna stand firm on what they believe, and they won't mind following you.
Oh man, I love it. I have I do a podcast on Sunday nights. It's a live one. It's called Why Love Waits,
Mm-hmm.
and it came from the belief or the understanding, the statistic that says that in 2020, this was 2023, or even 2022, I believe that 50%, like 49.98% of Black women over the age of 40 have never been married. And
Mm-hmm.
of that 50%, 75% of them have children and have been single moms. And so we're trying to have this conversation, and I'd love for you to come on someday, that we're talking about, what is this dynamic that, because in the 1960s, it was less than 19%,
Mm-hmm.
of women who, they wanted to be, now they're saying, we don't need a man. There's no reason to have a man. Men are saying, well, I had one guy that came in, I guess his son said, I don't want to ever get married because I have to give her half.
Right.
Going in with the belief that if I get married, we're going to get divorced before he even can think
Yeah.
about considering finding somebody. And I love what you said about accountability, because accountability is so vital.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe kind of share with us just a little bit, because I'm really enjoying this conversation and your openness here about what things changed in you to be able to be the husband for the wife that you have now, that you've been with now for 14 years, that you were madly in love with, that you can't wait to spend and wake up with her every single day, compared to the life that you were living before, and how you were treating, and the things that you may have changed in your mind that changed who you are.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Doc. Like we've been
Okay.
talking about, man, getting that word in you, man. When that word start manifesting in you,
Mhm.
you start thinking different. It ain't the outside appearance, it's the inside. We grow from the inside out, not the outside in. And so once I start valuing the word of God and being around, and that's another thing with men too, as a whole, not getting off the subject, but as a whole, we have to be around other men that's going iron sharpens iron. And
Mm.
that's just point blank. So you have to be around people that's influential to your life, that you're watching them like, wow, I want to not necessarily have a life, but I can do better. I can live better than where I'm at. And so when you start seeing things like that, then you start talking to brothers that's on another level than what you are, and things of that nature, man. It wants you to reach out and do better, especially when you have a woman that's striving for success and want things in life, and you holding them back. And don't get me wrong, Doc. When me and my wife first got married, she was holding a lot of things up, a lot of things together, because people don't understand when you do things in your 20s, and that's why I like to talk to young men too. When you do things in your 20s and you think that there's no consequences to what you're doing, you're wrong, brother, because there can be consequences that you do in your 20s that you still can be paying for in your 50s. Trust me, I believe that when I tell you that, because I'm a living word to it. I know that for a fact. And so we try to talk to brothers so that you can avoid some of those pitfalls. You know what I'm saying, in life. You don't really have to live like that. And so because when you do get to a point where you got a woman that's beside you 10 toes down and that love you more than anything, now I ran the streets, I did this, I did that. Now I get to a place of wanting to settle down and have peace. Now I don't have anything to give her.
Mm.
You see what I'm
Wow.
saying? And
Yeah.
so that has to be a strong point on both sides of the fence. And so as you was alluding to earlier, you say the women, so many percentage of the women say that they don't need a man today, and a lot of them feel that way. And so that's why when a lot of women feel that way, as you said too, that's why a lot of kids feel that way, that they don't need a daddy because the mama feel as though they don't need a man. So therefore, if they don't need a man, they don't need a man's presence. But what I fought brothers at is this, Doc, and I leave it alone here. What I fought brothers at is this. We got men present in the house, but not present. Because one thing, women,
Mm.
and I'm gonna say this to the women, one thing, women, that you go wrong at is when you take the man's voice out of the house, you take the discipline out of the house. Because now that child don't feel as though he have to listen to you, and as men we conform to that. You know what I'm saying? So now we're listening to the woman more than we want to, listening to ourselves. We doing what they want us to do, and more than what is right to do. Now some things you got to compromise on, and some things, whether right or wrong, you just got to stand on it. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that, because you're so right. Which brings me to talk about associations, right? The people that you hang around with, the five people that are closest to you, what they're doing. And one of the things that I think we kind of do ourselves a disservice, and you and I kind of, we talked about before the show, but we think of like the barber stuff that talks about the barbershop, right? I don't know if we ever get deep enough, like some of the brothers right now know more about the stats of Patrick Mahomes
Mm-hmm.
and what he's doing in the, I guess the Hurts, getting ready to play the Super Bowl here, than they know about their own kids or what their
Mm-hmm.
kids are doing. And we go in there and we kind of, we talk about our trophies, or we talk about the things that so much into the past too. We spend so much time in the past. How do we get to be in those relationships, like you said, iron sharpens iron, that has those relationships where we can talk about, what, I think I'm messing up in my relationship with my wife, or I think I'm not doing a good job with my kids, or here's a super hard one, right? My money's not right. I don't know about money. I don't know what to do. We're going down fast, and I don't, I want to talk to somebody who can help me before we go down too far. But no, we sit there and we go, oh, everything's good.
Mm-hmm.
Even sometimes folks that are even messing up with the money drive up in a new car,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
they feeling so bad. How Talk to me about associations and how you've been able to find those right folks, that you can now have those conversations that matter.
Doc, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think it's twofold of that,
Mhm.
because and one, I would say this, and this is what I tell brothers all the time. And people gonna come to you for certain things. Like you may be that person that people look up to, and and so they gonna come to you for advice and come to you for certain things. But if you don't have nothing in you to give them, then
Mm.
what are you giving them? You know, there's things where I said I talked to it in a second, where you can sow seeds of discord, or you can sow seeds of encouragement. At the end of the day, which one are you doing? Are you sowing seeds to help somebody, to build somebody up, or are you sowing seeds to tear somebody down? Period. Because if you ain't had nothing, that's just like say, I go to church on Sunday, right? I go to church Sunday. Pastor up there, he gives a word. But I feel as though that word is not for me, because either I've done that, or I've overcome this, or that, what I'm saying, that's not in my sight. I don't see that happening to me. But then so I ignore the word. And so later on in that week, a young man comes to me about a situation that he going through. Exactly what the word pastor was talking about at church, but because I didn't pay attention to the word, now this person who needs the word, I'm not able to give them what they need. And so that's the same thing when people come to us for certain things in life. You got to have something in you to give to them. If I ain't got nothing in me, I can't give you nothing. It all start, you know what I'm saying? So I have to give you something. Like, and here's the thing with me, Doc. And here's the thing with me. I don't have a lot of friends. I have associates, because maybe, as you know and I know as well, a lot of times when you start doing stuff, especially when you get older and you start doing things, you start seeing people kind of move away from you. And I used to get upset about it, like, man, but now I know that it's not people that just walking away from it. It's God removes people out of your way so that you can focus on what you're doing. Because sometimes some people can be a hindrance to what you're doing. We don't see it at times. Like sometimes people, some of our friends can put an imaginary line in the sand. You don't see it because you're a loving person and you thinking that it's all good. But they drew a line in the sand that they really don't want you to come across that because they don't want to hear nothing that you have to say. Because Doc may come to a brother and say, "Hey, look here, man, what you doing ain't cool. That ain't what it do." And so nowadays, men, we so sensitive to certain things. You know what I'm saying? We so sensitive. We don't want to hear. We can't. I've been saying this at work, and they like, you know what? I ain't even really paid that enough attention. See, I say, check it out next time you have a party. You got a party. The men in the garage, the women in the house, men outside having man talk. Cause you know, men don't talk the same around
Yeah,
they
of
women when we all
course.
together. So men outside talking man talk. And so somebody say something, you like, nah, dog. They're like, nah, that ain't what that do. And so you correcting them. And then we got egos. We don't like to be corrected a lot of time. We don't like to be, you know what I'm saying, like what we thinking is wrong because we got pride. But if you wrong, you wrong. I'm that type of person. Don't come to see, it's always two sides to the story, then it's the truth. Don't come telling me something that you know is a lie, and I can hear the lie in you, because God has given us a thing called spirit of discernment. And don't come telling me anything. I'm not the type of person. You just ain't gonna tell me anything. I'm just gonna believe anything that you say. So a man, so now you confronted like, nah, dog, that ain't what that do, whatever, whatever. A man is so used nowadays talking to a woman because most of the time that's who we with, our women, talking to a woman. They will lead a conversation outside with the men to go in the house and talk to the women. Where they do that at, man? We got come on now. I mean, at some point we got to start standing up and be men and start taking, because I cannot grow and be a man if I'm continue listening to a woman's perspective. Come on now. I mean, I gotta listen to a man in order to get a man perspective. My daddy had to teach me how to be a man. My mama couldn't teach me how to be a man because she's not a man. She can teach me values. She can teach me certain things in life, morals, character, things of that nature. But as far as being a man, my little son, my wife can't teach him how to be a man. So his daddy has to be an example in front of him to teach him how to be a man. But if I'm operating in the capacity of a woman, then what am I teaching my child? The same thing. We got to think about that, man.
Yeah, because we get in those uncomfortable situations because they're speaking to our character. And when our character is not the way that we know it should be, it's easier to go listen to somebody else tell me that I'm great, right? Tell me that I'm
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. Tell me that, oh yeah, you can relate. You know, and what happens is, and I love how you're saying this, is God will remove people from your life. I mean, people come to me because you know when I'm coaching or helping somebody say, okay, what's going to happen here is when I start helping you to grow, the people that you've been hanging out with, they're either going to get discouraged or they're going to get on board. If they get
Mm-hmm.
discouraged, you're not going to see them no more. So you can't be upset that because you're growing that they're going to leave, right? Or they're going to start talking about you. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to start, they're going to start saying, well, he's doing this, he's doing that, and he thinks he's too good for us, and and that's okay. You don't need, because if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going to grow. You're not going to become that man that you need to be. And as I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about, because I think you probably have a great answer to this. And when I think about purpose, and if you're living in the purpose that God has you for, then you have to be willing to serve others. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know of anybody who is living in purpose and being super successful and stuff that isn't willing to serve others in some capacity. In your mind, and how is it that you're able to serve others in the capacity that you are to kind of flow into what God's purpose is? Because that's truly, when you're doing that, the people that are around you, your spouses, your kids, those people love you even more when you're living in your person doing what God tells you to
Mm-hmm.
do. But so we're so hard-headed sometimes. We got to
Yeah.
do it our own way. Talk to me about you and how you've been able to figure this part out.
Man, just again, staying grounded in the word, um, and just having a feel for like what you're doing on this platform here, man. Just having a desire to want to see men grow. And so in order for me to try to help another brother grow, I have to continue growing myself. You know, the Bible tells us too, it say that the Bible say that in order to get the planks out of your brother's eye, first you got to get the planks out of your eye. So I can't help you see clearly if I can't see clearly. And so now that I can see clearly, now I can come out and tell a brother this and that, you know, and I'm at the point too, if you around me, cause I don't like talking about foolishness all the time, like you say, stats, this and that. You said something earlier made me think about it. You say we know more of Mahomes stats than we know about ourselves. I mean, yeah, it's basically we know about all that than we know about our purpose, our life. You know what I'm saying? Because the Bible tells us too, having a form of godliness, but denying the powers thereof. So therefore, our spirit man is dormant. It ain't being fed nothing. But we can feed all these numbers though. We know how many yards Patrick Mahomes had in the AFC Championship, 224 yards. We know how many yards Josh Allen needed to get a first down and couldn't get it. You know, we know all these things. But what do you know, like you said, about your household? What do you know about what's going at your household? And one thing about that too, Doc, you don't know what's going on at your household because either you bringing chaos to the house or your old lady bringing chaos to the house. And a house that got chaos in it cannot have peace. If you want peace in your house, you need to bring it.
Yes,
Period.
yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I love it, and then just the way you're stating things and putting things and thinking about the purpose of what we need to do. As we're kind of winding down a little bit, what are some things that you would love to share with everybody, and things that you're doing in your world, in your life, that you want people to know? Because I know you've been doing some writing. I know you got your podcast. You got all.
Yes,
I want people to be able to plug in, because as both of us are thinking, how are we helping Mingo? I'm getting ready to take at the end of this week. I'm doing a civil rights tour, victory tour, and I'm taking. There's 22 men who are going with us down to Alabama. We're going to go to Birmingham, then Selma, then Montgomery. We can see where we come from, and then we're going to
yes.
really come back and do some transformational groups where we're really starting to become leaders in our communities. What are some of the things that you got going? Please let us know.
Oh man. As you know, I got the podcast, the CJ Money Way Show. Actually, man, it's doing way better than I could have ever imagined. But I know that a lot of times, all you gotta do is make a step towards things, and then
Mhm.
gotta do the rest, man. You know, and so
Amen.
man, it's been taking off, man, and it's been doing pretty good. I can't worry about people that that may not like it, or because the most people, your most critics and people who you think that's gonna support you are mainly the ones who don't, and it's a layer that you have to get over. You know what I'm saying? In that capacity of people that you wanna enjoy what you're doing, a lot of them just not, because people wanna see you where you were. They want to remember you as you were. They don't want to see you who as you are. That's a whole nother subject. But the CJ Money Way Show, man, check it out. It's on all platforms. Actually, I got another podcast that just started this month called Planting Seeds with CJ. And if you like this episode, this is what you gonna be hearing on the Planting Seeds with CJ. Straight up. I tell you, brothers, to put your 3D glasses on because I'm coming straight at you. Hey, and that's just how it is, man. Because at the end of the day, Doc, you doing the same thing. You planting seeds. I'm planting seeds. People that sing, people that write books, and things like we all planting seeds. At the end of the day, if you really think about it, that's what we doing. It's just the matter of what type of seeds are you planting. You know, are you planting seeds for people to grow, or like I said earlier, or are you planting seeds of discord? As I go through the scripture, and I wrote a book about this too. Matter of fact, I got 10 chapters, trials, faith through trials, and it goes over the scripture, the sword that sold. And one thing I would say about that is say that some went to the wayside, some was on stony ground, some got 34, 64, and 100-fold. But one thing out of the whole thing, Doc, is same seeds, different results. That's how our life is. We all get the same opportunities in life to do certain things. I mean, as far as education and things of that nature, no, it's different playing fields. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But when you become grown, we all have opportunities to make our lives what we, you know what I'm saying, want to strive for. We all have opportunities to dream as big as we want to. But a lot of times we let other people, like the brothers tried to do with Joseph when they threw him in the well.
Yeah.
What we do is we let other people kill our dreams instead of going for our dream. And so stop letting people kill your dreams, man, and strive for what God and already showed you. And whatever door God and already opened for you, can't no man close it. Whatever door God and closed for you, ain't no man open it. And I'm gonna tell you this on my way out, and this is what I'm gonna say. Start preparing right now for whatever you trying to do. Because when the door opens, you want to be ready to go through the door when it opens. If you ain't prepared to go through that door, you still going to be standing at the same door that you at. Start getting ready right now, man.
Wow. I love how you said when you talk about these, I think it's Weathersby, you said, any fool can count the amount of apples on a tree, but only God can count out, or apple, or only how many God can apples that are come from on a tree, but only God can count how many apples come from the seed. And so I started thinking of that, right? If you're doing what God's asked you to do, you're living in purpose. Let Him multiply the seed. Let Him uncover, how many apples are on the tree. We can all count that, how many seeds on an apple tree, right? But every one of those seeds has the ability to create tons and tons of apples.
Yeah.
And so I love it. Thank you for being on today. I don't think our conversations are over by any stretch of the imagination. I think we're going to have more because we're in that same world where we're saying we want to make a difference. And for those of you who are watching, go ahead and hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. But if this podcast moved you, or even if you think of somebody who could benefit from it, don't be afraid to share it with them. All they can do is not watch it. But if you don't share it and they don't know about it, they don't even have the opportunity to be something that sows that seed that could change your life. One of the things that you made me think of earlier in the show is trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. Yep. He will direct you. Amen. If you allow that to happen, don't forget you are God's greatest gift. And He will love you if you allow Him to. And so, CJ, I appreciate you. I thank you. I'm glad you were on. I'm glad we got to spend the time together. And folks, we'll look forward to talking to you guys on the next one. You guys have an amazing rest of your day.